Thank you. Thank you. Well, today I want to talk to you about the art of transformational leadership and cheerful giving. See, if you look at the young man that's in that photo with his shirt off, this was a young man that grew up in a neighborhood that was infested with gangs, drugs, and prostitution. This was a young man that grew up in a single-family household where his mother had mental health issues. And this was a young man that grew up not knowing how to read and write at proficiency. See, that young man stands before you today as the CEO and president of Boys and Girls Clubs of Dane County. And so when you think about cheerful giving, when you think about transformational leadership, it's about you. It's about how you give back to the community to make a difference in somebody else's life. So for me, it was a gentleman by the name of Peter Goshes. He was the owner of a grocery store. He invested his time, he invested his talent, and he invested his treasure to help transform my life. And I think about those organizations who was very critical. I remember in my early 20s, I was asked to speak at the elementary school that I graduated from. And I remember being excited about talking to these kids. And I remember walking in the building, they still had my 8th grade graduation picture on the wall. And I gotta tell you, I had a lot more hair then. And I've lost just about all of it, if not all of it. And so I realized during that speech that out of all of the young men that had graduated with me, most of us had fallen victim to violence on the tough streets of Chicago. And it was because of a cheerful giver. It was because of leaders who understood transformational relationships or transformational giving, understood the value of relationships that made a difference in my life. And so when you think about cheerful giving, it's all about relationships. It's about passionate people. It's about committed individuals helping an organization fulfill its mission and ultimately delivering results to get to a vision point. And so you think about this body of work here. And so when I work with kids, and our mission is the core and the cornerstone of everything that we do at Boys and Girls Clubs. But we also realize that it takes a community to make a difference for young people, not only in our community, but communities all across the United States. So you think about this body of work, and you think about all the people that's part of the body of work, and that's what these balls represent. In order to keep the most vulnerable from drowning, we need our community to lift our young people and the most vulnerable up in our community and to prevent them from drowning. So it takes commitment, it takes passion, it takes living out your mission, and ultimately it takes you having a big, bold vision to help you achieve your goals. Now, I remember when I took over Boys and Girls Club 6 years ago, and I was a commissioner for Parks and Recreation in Philadelphia, and people said, why do you want to move to Madison, Wisconsin? Why go to the Boys and Girls Club? Because this is an organization that was struggling. So we came in and we said, we're going to tap into the passion of cheerful givers. And we're going to create what we call a BHAG, a big, hairy, audacious goal. And we said we will only have 2 goals, that 90% of our kids graduate from high school or be prepared for college or careers. Now, kids can come and shoot pool, they can play basketball, they can have fun, but at the end of the day, if those kids can't read and can't write, and if we don't connect them to cheerful givers, how can we transform their lives? So I would tell you, it's possible. So meet Kristen Bell. We knew that in order to hit that BHAG, people said, well, school districts won't even do that. If you're talking about serving kids of color, poor white kids, kids who traditionally have not graduated from high school and gone on to college or careers, how are you going to be able to do that? And I said, we're going to tap into the passion of Cheerful Givers. So we meet Kristen Bell. Kristen Bell is a student at one of our local high schools. She works 2 jobs. She's a junior in high school. Both her parents are on disability. So she's been working. She has a 3.5 GPA, but had no way to pay for college. And her mother and her father wrote her a note and said, we love you, but we don't know how we're going to help you get through college. So then one of my donors, who happened to be a key volunteer, who was not engaged in the community, connected with one of his neighbors, told him about Kristen Bell's story, told him about our BHAG. He was one of the people that was connected to our body of work. This gentleman was a high net worth individual. And he said, you know what? I want to provide a $100,000 scholarship for one young person to go to college. Now think about what that means. So Kristen Bell ended up winning it out of 42 people applying, going through a very extensive process. But think about what that means for her. That means she's going to be inspired, because she's a senior now. She's going to be inspired to graduate from high school. She's going to be encouraged to go to college. Then she graduates from college without having $100,000 in debt. That's what transformational leadership and cheerful giving does. The donor was a businessman by the name of John McKenzie. Here's somebody who had done extremely well with his business, but didn't necessarily know where to give to and how to give, and wanted to be engaged. And because we did that, he said, you know what? I want to now hire some of your kids because I want to make sure that I can connect them to careers. Now, here's some of these stats. You ask young people today, what do you want to be when you grow up? So our other BHAG was to connect kids to careers. Now, in the United States, only 30% of Americans have a college degree. So we know that every kid won't be prepared or won't go to college, but we want to make sure that they're prepared. So we need to connect our young people to careers. I remember being in Chicago. A young man had just got brutally murdered. They asked me to come to the south side of Chicago to address 400 African-American boys. I remember talking to these young men, and I said, what do you want to be when you grow up? I would tell you 95% of the young men in that room wanted to be in the NBA or the NFL. Now, there's nothing wrong with wanting to be in the NBA or NFL. But here's the stats, and I don't ever want to suppress young people's dreams, but as cheerful givers, or as people who give of their time, their talent, and their treasure, we also got to share with our young people what the stark reality is. So in high school football and basketball, more than 1.6 million kids play at the high school level. That's football and basketball. Then when you get to the collegiate level, 86,000 kids can play at the collegiate level. But on NBA and NFL draft day, there's only 303 jobs available. And if you're one of the 303, your career span is only going to be 4 years. So when you think about your body of work, think about how you can make a difference in your community. We all give, and there's some stats around that. So I think about our partnership with the Madison and Verona School District. We have the largest public-private partnership in Dane County with a public school system. People laughed and said, there's no way you're going to get 90% of your kids to graduate from high school and go on to college. I said, yes, we will. Yes, we will if we can connect people's commitment, their passion, help them understand our vision, and then tie them back to our mission of why we exist. And so I would tell you today, we have over 1,300 kids that's in our college preparatory program. 5 years in a row, the University of Wisconsin has done a study, and our kids' GPAs are higher, their attendance is better, they're taking more rigorous courses, and at the end of the day, they're graduating and going to college. And so you think about a gift we just got a couple of weeks ago, $1.2 million. $1.2 million to invest in the lives of young people. Now, Great Lakes Higher Education Corporation was connected to the program, was excited about the program, and wanted to make an investment. Now, there's an economic benefit to all of this. We either invest now or we invest later. So 95% of Americans in this country give an average of $3,000 per year to local nonprofits, 1.5 million nonprofits across the country. And so there are people out there that want to connect. So we invest now or we invest later. So as a country, the United States has become the #1 jailer in the United States. We have truly built school to prison pipelines. We have. We live in urban communities where graduation rates of kids of color are 50%. There was a study done by UCLA that said if a young person don't graduate from high school, you and I, as taxpayers, will pay over that young person's lifetime because they will become dependent on public resources. $200,000 over that young person's lifetime. So you think about the impact that non-for-profit organizations have in this community. 1.5 million nonprofits across the United States. 1 out of 10 jobs in America come from the non-for-profit sector. If the non-for-profit sector was a country, we would be the 16th largest economy in the world. The 16th largest economy in the world. Now, let me share with you some other data points. Now, America is a very giving community. $358 billion in contributions went to more than 1.5 million nonprofits. 4 out of 5 donations come from individual gifts, not foundations, not corporations. It's individuals like you, like me, like your neighbors, that we need to figure out a way to tap into people's passion, to get them connected to your mission, to get them committed, to make sure that we transform the lives of those who are the most vulnerable. So think about how you live your life. Think about what your mission is. Think about how you will transform the lives like others, like Peter Goshes did for me. So even if you look at this glass of water and you turn it around, you got to ask yourself, are you living a purpose-filled life? Is your glass half filled or is it filled? And so people can see, do you have content? Are you giving back to your community? Are you giving? Are you transforming the lives of other people? If this glass was clear, people would be able to see right through you. But because there's content in that glass, somebody's being lifted up. And so when I think about the most vulnerable in our communities, our kids, our seniors, the homeless, they need you. They need you to fulfill your mission in life. So mine is to be a good husband. My family is my first ministry. I want to be a good father. I want to be a servant leader. If you serve, that's when I believe transformational leadership occurs. And at the end of the day, I want to be a difference maker for those who are in need. And that's why I work for an organization like the Boys and Girls Clubs of Dane County. It aligns with my mission. I get to connect and build relationships with cheerful givers. I get to work with people in the school district, to kids, to parents, figure out what it is that you can do to help transform the lives of people in your community. Can you become that Peter Goshes? Can you become the person like Paul Tonneson, who is a member of my board, who is the CEO of a company called Fiskars? Here's somebody who had been living in this community, runs an international company, and not one nonprofit had contacted him. So here's a guy who wanted to do something, wanted to figure out a way to get engaged. And so we leveraged his relationships and others to help cheerful giving occur in our organization. So for example, we have a new corporate office that's valued at about $70,000 a year. We don't pay one penny. There was a cheerful giver who gave us the space for free. For example, we don't pay for marketing and public relations. On our board, we have a public relations firm that do pro bono work to provide those services for us for free. We do landscaping, and landscaping was costing us about, between snow and grass and all that stuff, another $10,000, $15,000 a year. We found a landscaping company called Olsen & Toon that provides those services for free. So we have tapped into the art of getting people to give. It saves us money, and in return, I then can utilize those dollars to spend directly on those who are being impacted in our community. And for me, that's our kids. That's scholarship money. They can go to kids like Kristen Bell that go to college. That's money that helps send kids on college field trips, or transportation to help a young person get to his or her job. So figure out what's your passion, what you want to do in terms of how you cheerfully give. In America, we've been great in terms of how we give, but we have to make sure that we continue to invest, that we follow our passion, that we're committed, that we create bold, hairy, audacious goals, and that we help transform the lives of people right in our own backyards. Thank you all.